Lesson for Tuesday, November 10th. Before we get started, go ahead and open up Out of the Dust. If you have the novel, just have it handy there on the side. If you, I also want you to open up a tab for the 5 W's, which is an assignment that's posted on Google Classroom. So pause the video and you can get those things ready. And once you do have them, go ahead and push play. All right, so here are the questions for today. Our focusing question is, what sustained people's spirits during the Great Depression? The content framing question, what does Hesse's use of figurative language and imagery reveal about Billie Joe? And the craft question, how do I incorporate sufficient evidence to support an idea? So on the homework for 19A, I am going to show you some examples of figurative language for on stage. You may have picked that one, or you may have picked the other poem. But here are some examples of figurative language. We have on page 13, the music springs straight out of me. This shows personification, giving a music human capabilities. You have the right hand playing notes sharp as tongues, telling stories. That's simile and personification. The author's making the music seem like it's alive and needing to communicate. Folks sway in the palace aisles, grinning and stomping and out of breath, and the rest eyes shining, fingers snapping, feet tapping. That imagery is so vivid, you can imagine that in your head, what's going on. Playing hot piano, that's a metaphor, compares how one plays the piano to a type of temperature. She pesters the keys, that's given personification, like the piano's a true friend of Billie Joe's, and she's engaging with it like a friend. So our craft question is, how do I incorporate sufficient evidence to support an idea? So what does sufficient mean? And how does it relate to evidence? Sufficient means enough evidence. It means that an essay includes plenty of examples that backs up a thesis statement. So I want to show you an example. Let me pull up the handout. It's a little small, so I'll read it to you. But I want you to compare these two and see which one includes sufficient evidence. It says, when Billie Joe plays the piano, she compares the experience to what heaven must resemble since, quote, it's the best she's ever felt, page 13-14. This metaphor emphasizes that playing piano makes Billie Joe feel incredibly happy and fulfilled. Now, that sounds like a good answer. However, do they give sufficient evidence? Do they have enough to back up that there's figurative language that develops Billie Joe's love of the piano? It sounds good, but wait till you hear the second example, and you can really see how there's sufficient evidence. When Billie Joe plays, she sizzles with Mad Dog, swinging with the Black Mesa Boys, page 13. The figurative language of sizzling and swinging with the band shows how much fun Billie Joe has as she plays. For example, sizzling depicts Billie Joe and Mad Dog on fire as they play. They're consumed with the music. The imagery used to describe the crowd also develops Billie Joe's love of piano. They sway in the palace aisles, grinning and stomping with their fingers snapping, feet tapping. This imagery depicts the crowd reacting to Billie Joe's music enthusiastically, and she loves their energy. Playing for these folks makes her feel alive and powerful. So you can clearly see how there is sufficient evidence in the second paragraph. There's more than just one example. So if we go back to our slides, how would you evaluate the sufficiency? The first example, it's relevant, has relevant information, but the point the example supports can be strengthened by providing more evidence. One piece of evidence is not sufficient to make a strong point. Now, the second example provides 2 pieces of relevant evidence followed by a good elaboration. So having those 2 pieces really makes your point stronger. What do you notice about the elaboration in both? Both the first and the second provide elaborations after the evidence is introduced. The elaboration explains how that evidence supports the idea. And the second example does a much better job. All right, I'm going to read the poem Dazzled, which is on pages 24 and 25. If you want to, you can pause the video so you can find pages 24 and 25, whether you're using the PDF on the computer or if you're reading the book. So you can pause it till you find it. All right, dazzled. And before we read the poem, what does dazzled means? It means 1, to blind by a bright light, and 2, to bewilder and impress others by being brilliant in some way. So as I read, I want you to look and see, by using the word dazzled, what's them all being compared to? And do you see any other examples of figurative language in dazzled? All right. Dazzled. In the kitchen, she's my ma. In the barn and the fields, she's my daddy's wife. But in the parlor, ma's something different. She isn't much to look at, so long and skinny, her teeth poor, her dark hair always needing a wash, but from the time I was 4, I remember being dazzled by her whenever she played the piano. Daddy bought it, an old Kramer, his wedding gift to her. She came to this house and found gaps in the walls, a rusty bed, no running water, and that piano gleaming in the corner. Daddy gets soft eyes, standing behind her while she plays. I want someone to look that way at me. On my 5th birthday, Ma sat down beside her and started me to playing. I'm not half so good as Ma. She can pull Daddy into the parlor even after the last milking, when he's so beat he barely knows his own name, and all he wants is a mattress under his bones. You've got to be something to get his notice that time of day, but Ma can. I'm not half so good with my crazy playing as she is with her fine tunes and her fancy finger work. But I'm good enough for Arlie, I guess. March 1934. All right, so by using the word dazzle, what's Ma being compared to? If we look at the definition of dazzled, it's to blind by a bright light. So Ma is being compared to a bright light. In other examples of figurative language, we see the imagery. She's so much to look at, so long and skinny, her teeth poor, dark hair always needing a wash on page 24. That imagery, we can really picture what she looks like with such details. Another example of figurative language, I remember being dazzled by her whenever she played the piano, comparing her to a light. Imagery, she came to this house, found gaps in the walls, a rusty bed, no running water, and that piano gleaming in the corner. You can really visualize what the house looks like because of the use of imagery. The figurative language, Daddy gets soft eyes. Figurative language, she can pull Daddy into the parlor. In imagery, he's so beat he barely knows his own name, and all he wants is a mattress under his bones. All right, so what does Hess's use of figurative language and imagery reveal about Billie Joe? We notice that we can understand her deep love for the piano. We can understand her relationship with her dad. We can understand what her house looks like because of the imagery that's provided. All of those things help reveal to us about Billie Joe. Now, the homework assignment for today that's due at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning is to read pages 37 through 51 if you're using the hard copy, pages 35 through 54 on the PDF, and Out of the Dust. You're going to select one poem between those pages, just one, to do the 5 W's and the H. I want to show you what that handout looks like. This is what it looks like. You're going to choose one of the poems and type the poem's name at the top right here where it says poem name. You're going to type the name of the poem, and then you're going to put the page number here. You're going to fill this out just like you did the web. I felt like the web was a little confusing at times, so we're not going to worry about filling out the different sections of the web. So instead, it's the same exact questions, but you're going to be filling it out here on this document. And notice in yellow I've highlighted you need to have 2 quotes. So you need to have 2 quotes anywhere within the document. If you have any questions, make sure that you reach out to me through Remind, and I'll be more than happy to help you. But this assignment is due at 8 a.m. tomorrow.